What's up, guys? Tim Little. Welcome back to Tactical Bass. In today's video, we are talking about the best baits to catch bass after the spawn. Now, depending on where you are in the country, obviously location is, the spawn is relative to your location. If you're down in the bottom of Florida or Texas, this video was probably your video a few months ago. But for the biggest part of the country, we're talking May and June. Those fish, we're gonna have fish coming up in multiple ways for the spawn, but a lot of times anglers kind of lose the fish after they all rush shallow, after they come shallow for the spawn. And the transition, right, that post-spawn, after spawn transition can be tricky and can leave anglers scratching their heads wondering where the heck did these fish go. Matt just did an awesome video on exactly that, right? Depending on the types of fishery you have, whether it's a highland reservoir, a lowland reservoir, natural lake, pond, or river system, he kind of broke down where are these fish going. So if you haven't already watched that video, feel free to pause this video and go watch that video. We'll link it down below. But it's important to understand where these fish are going. And then today we're going to talk about how to catch them. So real quickly, the post-spawn fish, they're usually in a funk for at least a few days, maybe a week or so after the spawn. I find myself, or I've ran into this situation several times during that spawn time. Those fish just pull out and they suspend on whatever cover, whatever lay down or dock, and you can throw whatever you want at them. They're there recuperating. They're not there to eat. They're just kind of in that post spawn funk. So it can be really hard to catch fish, but give them a few days, give them a week or so, and those fish are going to be aggressive. They're skinny, they're hungry, they just did their whole spawn process, and that post-spawn time when you can find those aggressive schools of fish, man, it can be game on. So what we've taught throughout the years, during this transition, some fish stay shallow. Those are your fish that during the summertime you catch on your frogs. Yeah, those are your fish that you catch, flipping or pitching, punching, right? You're fishing that heavy covered grass back in the very back of coves or pockets. And then you have your deep fish, the fish that go out to your hard bottoms. So your main lake points, your secondary points, your humps, your saddles, your ledges, your ledge fish, those are fish that you're catching on your hair jigs, flutter spoons, magnum crankbaits, right? Those are the fish that are offshore. So depending on your fishery and depending on how you want to fish or which set of fish do you want to fish for, we have baits lined up that have a ton of confidence in for any or both of those scenarios. So again, those fish split up. It can confuse a lot of anglers because obviously you're not going to be chasing the ledge fish with a frog, and you're not going to be chasing the shallow fish with a flutter spoon, right? So you kind of have to pick which way you want to fish. A lot of it is reaction. So a lot of moving involved, a lot of just kind of spot hopping until you find where those fish are congregated or are staged up. And then once you find them, man, you can load the boat or the kayak or the shore, right? Depending if you're a shore-based angler. But the post-spawn, once they get out of that funk, it can be so much fun. And we're not talking full summertime yet, right? We're not talking full grassed out. We're not talking matted out, that type of scenario. We'll talk about that later on in the year, maybe a month or so from now. But right now we do have some grass coming up. We have some grass just under the surface. So those shallow fish are going to be in and around grass, right? They're going to be in and around that visible cover, whether it's brush piles, laydowns, edges of grass lines, whether it's the farthest grass line in or the farthest grass line out, they're going to be on those grass lines. And then those deep fish, like I said, are going to be out there on that hard bottom, whether it's rock piles or chunk rock or a sand area. If you're a smallmouth guy, a sand area surrounded by grass, you know, that clear bottom, but they're gonna be out there down on bottom, and we have some baits for you as well on those. So let's talk about the baits, right? So first and foremost, after the spawn, the biggest thing that most lakes have going on if you have shadded them is the shad spawn, and that's number one on my list right now. If you're on a fishery or you are fishing a fishery that has threadfin shad as bait fish, the first few minutes, half an hour, hour of daylight, right, as that sun's still coming up, those shad are gonna be up on riprap, hard edges, maybe boat ramps, something like that, and they're gonna be doing their spawn, right? They're gonna be jumping out of the water, you'll see them flickering everywhere, and more often than not, you're gonna see boils, you're gonna see blow-ups. Those fish, those largemouth, those bass, they feed first light. So if you're a late riser and you get out at say 7:30 or 8, you're probably missing it. But if you can, look for the birds. The birds are a good telltale sign. You'll see the white birds, the shad birds diving. You know, look for a windblown point, look for that hard cover, and then look for those flickers. If it's a slick, calm morning, you'll see those little flickers, little spits of flashes on the surface, and that's the shad. You know, for me, number one bait for that scenario, early in the morning, is going to be a spinnerbait. Whether it's the Nichols or the Megabass, these are both awesome spinnerbaits, but I'm chucking and winding fast in the morning, trying to get those fish to eat, okay? As those shad are up there doing their thing, those bass are up there gorging, and it is the right time to be throwing a spinnerbait. It's a fairly weedless bait, so if I'm throwing a lipless crankbait up there or a square bill, as deflective as it is, a lot of times I get hung up and I don't want to have to one, lose the lure, or two, go up there and ruin the spot, right? I want to throw something that's fairly weedless, that has some backbone to it, and that I can fish fast and aggressive. So a flashy, shaddy spinnerbait is my number one go-to bait after the spawn. Even bait, bluegill, you know, your panfish, they're up there. You got the little baby bluegill. You got all sorts of things going on. The spawn, those fish are up shallow. So if you find yourself in that situation, tie on that spinnerbait and go to work. Number two, this time of the year, same situation, early morning, I like to throw topwater, okay? Typically I'm not throwing a fast moving topwater. Again, these fish can somewhat be lethargic after the spawn. Give them a few days. They'll kind of perk up a little bit, but I like to go with a popper, okay? Either the World Pop or the Pop Max. Those are my two favorite poppers. Again, it's something that I can throw up there to those things that I think are isolated pieces of cover, things that I think those fish are gonna stage on, and then I can slowly bloop, bloop, just pop this thing over their head. I can walk it back and forth and not cover a lot of distance like I would with a buzzbait or a horny toad or something like that, right? I can pause it a little bit, it's gonna float, I can bloop and really kind of get those fish to commit if they're not wanting to. But this goes hand in hand with that shad spawn as well. That's matte shad, that's a beautiful color. You can go with a little bit of flash if you want that World Pop. But again, a popper is my number one go-to bait this time of the year for those shallow fish, right? So even those ledge fish or those fish that are gonna make their way out deep, you can get them with a topwater in less than, let's say, 12 to 15 or so. But these baits are all gonna apply differently depending on where you're fishing. The other two baits I have for you, this guy right here, I went with this guy over like the Vixen or the Shower Blows. You guys know that we love that bait, but this is the Giant Dog X by Megabass. And even though it says giant, let me give you something for size reference here. I mean, here's a popper, right? It is not giant at all. This is a very, very finessey topwater. So low light, low ripple on the water, shad spawn. You don't want to have a big loud clacking buzz bait. Maybe you do in some situations, but if you're in that kind of calm situation, I really like that guy right there. I will add a little split ring to the front, give that bait a little bit more action, but that guy is awesome. And then I will eventually, as the day gets longer or it gets farther along in the day, I will throw that whopper plopper, either the 110. I don't throw the full size yet. That's gonna be more of my June into July. Bass are busting over there chasing bait. You know, it's more aggressive fishing. So the whopper plopper, again, take that shad spawn out of the equation. Now we're just going to, you know, we're running shoreline, right? Maybe we have a lay down here, we got a lay down there, got a stump back there, and then in the very pocket, we probably have some grass. So I'm gonna fish the outer edge, and I'm gonna fish the back edge as it goes to shore. I'm gonna fish that thoroughly with the top water, okay? Now, if you get too grassy or too shallow and you need to throw top water, now we're talking about going with a frog. Now, typically I'm throwing, again, just like the popper, I'm throwing a popping frog. The Jackall Gavacho is my favorite. It's a smaller, slender profile, and the bass just typically don't miss it, right? They choke it. It's a frog that I can work side to side. I can pop it just like I can fish that popper. If I have to downsize a little bit, you guys know I'll go with that Jackall Kaera. And then if there is grass on the surface and I want to throw a bigger presence or a bigger profile frog, that's when I'm stepping up and going with the Snag Proof. That's the Bobby's Perfect frog. That was redone a couple years ago, and that is a bad little frog. That thing is awesome. I will take jig rattles. I will put a jig rattle in the belly and maybe a drop shot weight or so as I get farther along into summer and that grass really starts growing up and getting that cheese, and I need to make more impression on the mat. I will do some tricks, but we'll talk about that later on. But a frog, okay? If you're staying shallow and you're fishing for those shallow fish, you got to have a frog tied up this time of the year. Same situation. Got a couple more same situation, couple more baits for you, and then we'll transition to some deeper fish. Same situation, you're up fishing shallow, you're in and around that grass. I'm throwing something with some flash. We talked about that spinnerbait early on in this video, but as far as a swim bait, I'm throwing a swim bait that has a real wide kick, a real aggressive kick, not a real tight kick like I would in the wintertime or early spring. Now I'm throwing something with a real wide kick, good body roll. Again, that X-Zone Swammer is my favorite. Paired up with a flashy swimmer. Again, this is weedless, but it has some flash and some vibration. So if you find yourself shallow in that situation, you can throw this just above the grass. You can fish that grass line, front and back, that grass edge, and those fish will come out, they'll ambush out of that grass and smash that guy right there. I like that 4-inch or 4.75 size. And then on the flip side, if you have open water or you are in that deeper water situation, just going with our underspin. That's our underspin we did with Dirty Jigs. Again, same X-Zone. That's actually the smaller that's the 375. But again, I'm going with some kind of flash, some kind of underspin. And this really applies to you smallmouth fishermen, you offshore spotted bass fishermen. Now those fish pull out, now they're on those bait balls. That works wonders. So some kind of swim bait will take care of me either shallow or out deep, and I always have one of those tied on. A couple more baits for you. Let's go another one that we can do both, shallow or deep. And the last two are gonna be deep. Okay, the Fluke, soft plastic jerkbait, okay? Either rigged Texas rigged with a Gamakatsu EWG, like a super line hook, a real stout hook, or that little trick we like to do with the owner, the centering pin, run that into the nose of the bait and then hook your favorite drop shot or, we'll link our favorite hooks down below in the video description, but some kind of finesse hook, right? So this, you can fish in open water. You can put nail weights in the chin, you can put nail weights in the belly, but getting that action of that dying bait fish, that erratic bait fish, is killer this time of the year. As those fish are feeding up, they're gonna be chasing and schooling. Looks like we got a storm rolling in, so I'm gonna wrap this one up. And then if you need to go weedless, that's when you go Texas rig, and you can fish it above the grass, just like you would that top water, or through the grass edges like you would that swim bait. Those are killer as well. Okay, 2 deep baits for you. The crankbait and the weedless crankbait, the wobblehead. Okay, let's talk to crank. This is definitely more popular. This time of the year, you guys know, this entire year so far, we've been throwing our Tactical DD. That is a cold water crankbait, real tight wobble, works extremely well speed cranking in your cold weather, your cold water months. That's what we designed it to do. You guys know that we have found that it works extremely well in the dead of summer as well. So that is on the list, as well as the Rapala, the DT16. We're not going to the 20 yet. If those fish get out there a little bit deeper, then we will. But again, 2 great crankbaits. As these fish pull out and get on that outside ledge, you need something to get down and to them. So a crankbait, ooh, there comes the front. And then the Strike King, the 6XD. There's another one, the Atlas. Those are my 4 favorites. The Atlas is a really loud crankbait. That Strike King 6XD has a real aggressive dive, wobble. So you need something to get down in that 12 to 18 foot range. This is what we're gonna do. And then if you need something weedless, we're going with the wobble head, right? That is the X-Zone Adrenaline Craws. The Zoom Speed Craw works great. June bug color is key, okay? This thing you chuck out there, you want to just ticking bottom, ticking that chunk rock, the rock piles, and the fish just eat it. June bug post spawn is money. Guys, if you're out here in the next month or 2, May or June, these baits work really, really well. We got the rain coming in, awesome. I'm gonna wrap this up, guys. As always, I will link all the baits I talked about, favorite colors, hookup rates, all that stuff down below in the video description. We appreciate you guys watching. We appreciate the support. If you like this video, hit that thumbs up button, subscribe to the channel, and we will see you guys on the next video.